Welcome to the People's Choice Award podcast, brought to you in partnership with Tier 1 People and Fintech Australia. The Finnies, Australia's largest and most prestigious fintech awards, are fast approaching, and we want you to be part of it. Sponsored by the Victorian Government and major partners Vocus and SwiftX, the Finnies are a chance to celebrate the amazing people, incredible innovations, and remarkable resilience that the fintech industry is known for and built upon. Fintech Organisation of the Year Award is sponsored by Vocus. Thank you, Vocus, for your support in making the Finnies a reality. We look forward to seeing everyone on the 9th of June in Melbourne, and don't forget to make your vote in the People's Choice Awards. Well, I'm joined by Rhys Davis, who's Chief Product Officer and co-founder at Fresh Equities, and they're up for Fintech Organisation of the Year Award. Welcome, Rhys.
Thanks, Dexter. Thanks for having us.
Mate, you're absolutely welcome. And I got to say, congrats to everybody at Fresh Equities for making the finals.
Yeah, incredibly humbled to be put up in this category. And looking at the people we're up against, it's a bit daunting, but it's really nice to be, for the team in particular, to be recognized for their sort of hard yards they've been putting in the last 3 years.
It's, I mean, every year I keep saying this, but the competition just gets tougher and tougher. So believe me, for you to have got to this point is an incredible achievement and testament to you and the rest of the team as well. So, you know, from here at Tier 1 People, we really want to congratulate you, even though it's not the win yet. Yeah, I think it's an amazing achievement to get to this point.
What do they say at the Oscars? It's just great to be nominated.
Yeah. Well, hopefully you've got the black tie and ready there and the acceptance speech done. But what I'd love to talk with you about, Rhys, is a little bit more about Fresh Equities. Could you tell our listeners about what you do?
So we're a platform that gives investors access to ASX listed capital raises, right? So basically, there are 2,400 companies on the ASX, and like startups, a bunch of them tend to raise capital. Historically, that meant, going through a broker or an investment bank, and to get access to their capital raise, you had to have an existing relationship with whoever's running the deal, and be sort of at a level on their call sheet such that you hear about it before it's done. So there are a lot of investors we found in the market who are just missing out, who really wanted to be the opportunity to participate. In some cases, we're even like top 20 shareholders of the company, and they just hadn't gotten the call. And so we said, this is kind of crazy. What if, in every other industry, there's sort of been this push to a self-service platform? You know what I mean? So you think of like realestate.com as a great example. It's crazy to think, but once upon a time you had to get the call from the agent to tell you there was a house for sale. That's no longer the case. And we're trying to bring that level of access and transparency to this market such that any investor who's eligible can participate in the raise that they want to participate in.
So how did you come up with the idea for the business, Rhys?
So great question. Ben and I, Ben, my co-founder, had been involved in sort of fast growth companies for a long time. We've gone through the pain of raising capital. And so we'd sort of had this experience of how hard it is to sort of go through that process in a private company sense. But we'd also seen in the public space a lot of investors complaining that for them, the pain point was actually hearing about it before the deal was done and getting a chance to put their hand up. And we sort of saw that in forums because both of us have invested before and said, I think we can solve this. And so we sort of went to talk to people in the industry, and the feedback we were getting is kind of like, oh, there's no problem here. Sort of everyone who wants to participate in the deal can, and no one's really left out. So I said, okay, well, let's just try. Let's just see if we could help. And I remember the first deal we put up access for, we were saying, maybe one investor shows up who, for $10,000 investment, who wants to participate that can't, then that just demonstrates that there might be demand here. And what we ended up with was 5 investors for $200,000 of demand into a deal that otherwise would have missed out. And we were able to help connect them with the people running that deal. And then we sort of just kept growing from there. And the more we dug, the more we found that there's just a lot of people out there who want to be self-directed in their investment, want to be able to choose when to participate in a capital raise without having to have the prerequisite relationship with the potential lead broker, because they want to, they have a preferred person they like to deal with. And we sort of unlock their capital effectively for these type of deals.
Awesome. So you mentioned there that the business is now about 3 years old. Where are you now in terms of number of people and kind of what's the size of the business?
So we just hired 3 more people. So we've just hit 27 people. A year ago at this time, we were 10. So it's been a pretty rapid, pretty rapid growth. And we've just cleared $140 million invested into Australian companies.
Wow.
Which has been pretty rapid growth over the last 3 years. So it's been going pretty full steam. For
a business that you were told there wasn't a market there, that's quite an achievement.
Yeah, exactly. There's a couple more dollars that wants to get in than we were told when we started.
The growth that you've seen, so you talked there, you've hired more people, the revenue's going up. What do you kind of see has been the driver for the growth of the business, and what do you put it down to?
We've had a couple of things, really. One, we really focused on trying to reduce the friction to participate. So that's everything from signing up and setting up an account through to understanding the deal. So there's a lot of people for whom the first listed placement that they participated in was on our platform. So there's sort of new entrants into the market, so to speak. As well as I think COVID across the board, I think, drove a lot of people to really relook at at the investment markets, if that makes sense. So we got a bit of boost off that. And then because we're sort of very focused on just this one aspect, right, giving people access to capital raises, we're really able to focus on that and build a great experience for users. And so we've been really fortunate that word of mouth has been a really strong part of people referring people onto the platform and saying, hey, you got to check this out. I've been using this. It's great. So our relationship with the users on platform and the investors who invest with us has been a really strong part of that growth.
Okay. And could you maybe share with us a little bit more who typically would your customers be?
So listed placements in Australia are limited to what's called a sophisticated investor. So that's a legal definition. It's, I think the threshold is either $250K in annual salary for 2 years or $2.5 million in assets. So that means that they can be ticked off legally as what's called a sophisticated investor who are allowed to access these kind of deals. And those are typically the people who are signing up to our platform and using it. So sort of what we'd think of as sort of high net worths or all the way up into sort of family offices and some institutions as well. So those are the kind of people who use the platform. Yeah.
And how have you positioned yourself for future growth? Are you going to stay in the space? Or are you going to look to get kind of evolve into other areas?
We're definitely looking how we can. So we sort of see ourselves as a two-sided marketplace in some sense, right? So we investors on one side, companies looking to raise capital on the other, and us helping to do the matchmaking in the middle. There's obviously a lot of things we can do to help both sides of that equation improve their experience. So in terms of helping companies know what's happening with investors, it's kind of the issue in the market to a degree is there are hundreds or thousands of investors. It's really easy to talk to, say, a couple of large institutions, but it's really hard to talk to a lot of people, a lot of individuals, and we're sort of making that a bit easier to bring them together and talk to. And so we're sort of looking at how do we build that relationship and make it easier for companies to really engage with investors and for investors to engage with companies. And we think there's a lot of opportunities for us to continue to expand and through that create better deals and new deals into the market.
If I can maybe take you back to the earlier days of the business, when you were looking to get it off the ground, what do you think were some of the kind of lessons that you and Ben learned on the way that you can share with other founders? It's interesting. I think last year you guys were in for Emerging Fintech of the Year, and this year you've kind of you've grown up and now you're in the big one, the FinTech Organization of the Year. What would you say has kind of been your learnings on that journey?
That's a really great question. I think in the very, very early days, what really helped us was just focus and sort of a focus on what we were doing, if that makes sense, like really narrowing the scope to just be, all right, we're just going to help investors who want to get access to placements get access to placements. You know what I mean? I think a thing that comes up a lot in early stage startups, there's lots of sort of, you could also do this and you could also do that, and sort of little bits and pieces that can pull your attention, and suddenly you've lost a week or a month looking at something that really isn't the core part of what you're doing. So sort of being really aggressive in just being focused on one thing was really important to us. Iterating really quickly, I think, was really important for us. If we got feedback, we'd want to have acted on it within the week that we got the feedback, if that makes sense. So that by the time we talk to someone again, the thing that they'd said had been implemented, tested, changed about what we were doing. So just being really rapid response, I suppose. And then just being really good to people. So good to the people who are using the platform, good to our employees, and good to our investors. This is basically sort of, focusing on just kind of being a good bloke, I guess. And making
it's underrated.
Yeah,
right?
totally. I think people do business with the people they like, and they find ways to not do business with the people they don't like. It's sort of a belief of mine. So try to be, someone that people enjoy working with, if they're a customer or if they're an employee. So we really focused on that as well.
Now, you mentioned that the business has almost tripled in size in this last year in terms of people. What's been your approach to attracting and then developing top talent?
We've been really fortunate. I've sometimes referred to our company as the Kevin Bacon of Fintech, because for some reason, everyone we bring on has some relationship with someone else, even if we didn't know it at the time when they were going through the hiring process. So people come in and go, "Oh, I didn't know you also worked here." And someone I haven't spoken to since they're in kindergarten together type things.
Right.
But we found, by building that really strong culture of a group of people who really like to work with each other, it means people constantly saying, "Hey, we should bring this person in. This person's great. They should come in." And those people are really excited to join as well. So I think we've really focused on trying to create a culture where people want to work here, if that makes sense, and where it's a formative experience for them career-wise. And we found that's really done us great guns in helping us find top talent. And then also on your point about how we help them grow, just really giving people a lot of autonomy, giving them a clear direction and saying this is a big problem. If you want to solve it, help us out, rather than being sort of very directive and micromanaging. And that's led to some really interesting ideas coming up from the team, and people feeling really empowered, I think, has been helpful, because then people want to grow because they can see the value of it.
Yeah. It's such an important thing. We find it's similar to the kind of ethos of product development. It's very similar to the way that we see going about hiring and keeping a workforce kind of happy and engaged. Is all that focus on solving problems. So rather than giving somebody a job description, you actually tell them the problems that you've got and invite them to come up with solutions in the interview process and talk about how would you tackle this. And it's it seems such a subtle shift and so simple, but it has a massive impact on the type of people that you bring into the business, and also the clarity around why they're being brought in the first place. So I really love to hear that, Reese. It's great that you're kind of taking that approach with your team, because it's it's part of what you have to do anyway as the business, right? In that product evolution as well.
I think that's 100% what you mentioned as well, in terms of during the hiring process, kind of treating it like we, for every role we hire, we have sort of a homework task, like an actual execution thing. Can you do this thing? How would you go about it? And usually it's not so much around the goal of it is not so much around to see, can you do the task? But it's like, how do you go about it? Do you communicate? Do you ask questions when you run into things? And just sort of having a robust and sort of, a little bit longer than we would like sometimes hiring process, I think has been really useful for us to really find out about people and get to know them. And
I think it's better to have a longer one than a shorter one, is
I agree.
What I can see through the data that we get and we've seen through the market. But look, interestingly, on that bit that you've raised about homework as well, I think it can be almost like an immediate kind of excluder of if somebody tells you to get lost, right? And that they're not doing homework.
Totally.
It's usually a good sign that, hey, well, that's not going to work in our environment, because guess what, right? If the photocopiers, well, not that we use photocopiers anymore, but if it's broken, you got to fix it, right? And you just got to chip in and make things happen. And we've seen oftentimes, how people react or respond to being asked to do something like that.
We also look at it because the type of homework tasks are usually about the type of stuff we're doing. So it's, this isn't going to be, a startup isn't for everyone. And also, a fintech isn't necessarily for everyone. If you don't find the stuff that we're doing on a day-to-day basis enjoyable, then that's fine. That's totally normal.
Yeah.
It's better to know early than find out late.
Yeah. No, and look, I agree 100%, right? I think, I use the analogy of that TV show, The Voice. You haven't got three judges sitting there and somebody stands up and says, hey, pick me and I promise I'll be the greatest singer you've ever heard. And you're going to win the competition if you back me and pick me.
Yeah, exactly.
That person actually has to get up and sing, right? And then the judges decide whether they want to pick them or not. So I think it's such a critical component of any recruitment process is to put in almost like that audition step, where on both sides people get to see, hey, is this the right fit or not?
100%. And a big thing we've also really focused on is when you're 4 people, bringing on a fifth is a fifth of your culture, a fifth of who you are as a business. So spending the time with those people early on, I think is super important because it can dramatically change who you become.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's true. Absolutely true. And I think it's one of the challenges, right?
Yeah.
Business, the size that you are, culture fit is irrelevant because every person, as you rightly pointed out, comes in and can drastically change the dynamic. And so it's all about, how does that, person add to the culture? How do they evolve the culture and kind of make it more than what it already is? In a good way, obviously.
Yeah, definitely.
Cool. Now, one of the challenges that we see, is retaining that kind of DNA of the startup as the business grows. How have you managed to do that as you've, sounds like you've just been, you probably would have spent the last 12 months just hiring, given the numbers. So how have you managed to kind of retain that original DNA of the startup as you have grown the business?
I think that's always a really, really big challenge. And it's definitely something, that we've noticed a lot as we've grown is people, it's sort of a 0 to 1 kind of culture that you have as a business. And we're thankful to think that we're now in sort of more of a scale up stage, so that 1 to 10 size. And the business, and there's sort of changes that happen with that. Suddenly you have departments, you know what I mean? Whereas previously you just had people and you have sort of people focusing on going deep on specific areas. And I guess the way we've tried to maintain it is one is through culture, right? Making sure that people feel that they can talk to everyone in the business and know everyone in the business as much as they can, given that, the size that we're on now. 2 is by trying to, again, lean on that autonomy, make sure people have ownership in their role and can feel that they can make decisions quickly. Because I think speed to decision is super important to maintain speed of the business. And then the 3rd is we've tried to maintain a really high level of transparency with everyone. So no one's sort of wondering where we're at. So sort of every Friday, for example, we do a full company all hands where we go through, here are all our metrics, right? Here's each department and the challenges they're working on and what they've learned. Here are their wins. And we try to sort of make sure that no one's ever unsure of how they fit in the organization and what we're trying to achieve, right? And how they can help. And I think that's helped us sort of stay nimble, or I hope it has. But those are sort of the things we sort of focused on.
And I guess, most of us have been working remote this last 12 months. How have you managed to onboard new starters and kind of get everybody, feeling welcome and kind of build those relationships quickly? Because it's way more difficult over Zoom than it is being in an office together and being able to kind of sit next to people and just kind of build that relationship by osmosis.
Yeah, 100%. It was a weird year to grow. That's 100%. Again, we were lucky because a lot of the people who joined had, either knew someone else in the business or, had a friend who knew someone in the business. So there was sort of that level of warmth I think people had coming in, which was really helpful. We tried to do, as I think everyone did, a lot of events on Zoom so that people could get to know each other to varying levels of success at times. And then we just sort of tried to keep a lot of communication going and try to keep a lot of the those sort of cultural touch points that we had pre-COVID going during COVID, just in a different form. So that was good. And we learned a lot. I think there was some sort of hidden upsides to going remote for a year, which was it kind of exposed parts of your business where you don't have a process, if you know what I mean, where you're relying on close proximity of people hearing each other talk, and then realizing, we don't have that. How do we actually, we should write more stuff down, as an example, and share our thoughts in written form more often. And so there were some really good points that came out of that. But I'd say there's a lot of learnings over the last year about how to do that.
Brilliant. Now we're kind of coming to a close, and this is the People's Choice Award, where they get to vote for the winner. So I guess, first up, what are you most proud of that Fresh Equities has achieved over the last 12 months, Rhys?
Most proud of over the last 12 months. I think I'm really proud that sort of going into COVID in particular, it looked like there could be, another market apocalypse like 2009. And there was definitely some big changes, but, we managed to keep everyone we had going into COVID. We managed to grow during COVID. We managed to, help more investors go in. So get involved in the market. So I think I'm really proud that we managed to grow under those circumstances. And that, we managed to keep together as a team, even far apart. I think that's one of the things I'm probably most proud of.
Right.
I think the other part is we managed to also raise capital in COVID. And so managed to bring more investors into the business to help us, underwrite the growth that we were going through. And that was obviously, if hiring is hard in COVID, raising capital was even harder. But really proud of Ben and the team that we were able to pull that off, which has sort of allowed us to sort of go great guns into this year. So I think those are two big points I'm really proud of. And I guess the third is, we just managed to keep growing.
Thanks, Rhys. And what does the future hold for Fresh Equities?
Well, in the short term, we were nominated for 4 categories in the Finny, so we're incredibly excited.
Wow, 4!
Yeah, it's been a crazy year. So we're really excited to see how we go there. But in terms of more generally about the business, we've got pretty big ambitions to keep growing. While we talked about the stats earlier, we're still to sort of $8 billion a year on average raised on the ASX every year. So we're still a small part of that pool. We think there's a lot of room to grow still.
Excellent. Well, it's been fantastic to hear about the Fresh Equities story, Rhys. And we wish you, from me and the team at Tier 1 People, we wish you and Ben and the rest of the Fresh Equities team all the best in the finals. Again, well done for getting it this far and being in 3 other categories. And just, mate, it's so great to hear about the success that you're having, and really kudos for a business that's 3 years old to be doing the things that you're doing. It's awesome.
I really appreciate that, Dexter. And thanks so much for the time and having a chat.
Fintech Organization of the Year Award is sponsored by Vocus. Thank you, Vocus, for your support in making the Finnies a reality. We look forward to seeing everyone on the 9th of June in Melbourne. And don't forget to make your vote in the People's Choice Awards.